Hello everyone, Alien Volt here, and what I was going to do is do a quick video on the mechs of Hawken. Just a real quick display of what I've done with my mechs, what customization options I've used, and how you would go about making a mech the way you want it to look and feel. So this is the Predator, and basically what I've done with him is I really haven't played him. At rank 3 he actually unlocks the secondary weapon here, which has more damage. The accuracy drops down substantially. It's only 7 where this one's 50. The rate of fire is only 14, but it's up from 5 here because he's basically kind of a little bit of a sniper. Effective range is 21 versus 35, so it drops as well. Your heat rate goes up to 44 versus 23 here. And your heat rate is basically the amount of heat. As your heat builds up, basically your weapon, you can't fire it. You have to wait till it cools down. So then the third weapon here, as you can see, the stats are right here as well. You can pause the video if you'd like to actually compare them, but this is what it would look like. Your weapons actually don't change colors according to your body paint, which is too bad because it'd be nice if you could actually customize the color of the weapons as well. Now, consumables are things that you can actually use while you're in combat, like charge beacons, instantly recover your mech. Jump start, instantly recover a teammate when activated within a distance of the mech beacon. And then status field creates a protective barrier that absorbs 200 damage for 30 seconds. Now, internals are things that you can actually place up into these slots that can be used in combat. Like for instance the A, IR or Air 180 basically allows your mech to do a 180 spin in the air. Or you can go down to, say, a basic extractor, gain 15% faster armor and energy unit collection from orbs and EU stations that you find in gameplay. Fuel converter, convert 1% of your damage taken into fuel. Evasive device, gain 15% faster run speed with armor is below 25%, 10% faster run speed when armor is below 50%, which are all nice things to have. Deflectors take 20% less damage while boosting or dodging. To actual items, so like a detonator's charges, so it's like a high explosive charge that basically you're throwing a grenade out there to hit other things. The one that I currently have equipped, a large top-like projectile that explodes briefly after deployment, sending out disruptive radio waves. All mechs within the radius of the explosion will have their vision distorted for a short period of time. And what this does is the basic one allows for 1 use per deployment. As you level your mech up, let's say you were to come up here to let's see, which one did I have on there? The item disruptor, or here we go. Allows for 3 uses per deployment. So every time you deploy on your mech while you're running around until you die, you can actually use this 3 different times during deployment, which is nice. Consumables, internals, and items that you can actually use are all the same for all the mechs. you have all these options to actually use. Now weapons are the only thing that really differ on the mechs, and each mech has their own unique weapons. Now for cosmetics on the mech, you can design these and make them look pretty much any way you want. For instance, if you like this type of a mech build-up, then that's what you get. You just buy it and unlock it. And if you don't want one of the painted ones that come pre-painted with unique and cool looking designs, you can actually just buy a plain one, say like this one, and then you buy the paint job for the body that matches the head, the actual main part of the body, the head, or the top part rather, will actually match. So, and it really just depends on what style you're after. And then you have the paint jobs. So basically you can come through here and select any type of paint scheme that you like for your mech. Let's say you want Wicked Green. And Wicked Green would probably definitely look better with, say, my basic look here. So if you don't actually get the painted top piece, your body paint actually comes up to the top part here, as you can see. And then there's another thing you can do, is actually the scale will change the camo pattern up. And then the saturation will take the base color out. So you can actually end up making a gray and black camo pattern off of the color, or different shades of green. Now the other thing you can do as well is swap up the body kind of pinstriping that's on the mechs. Like on the legs here and the parts where you see the red at now, you can change it to any color you want. And then the lightness all the way to white to black. It really depends upon what you like, and there are plenty of options to mess around with to really get something that is unique and feels right for you. Now on top of that, you've got different body parts as well, and they can start off very basic and plain, like the Fred middle, to just changing up the design to something that you like and feels right for what you think a mech should look like. As well as the feet. Then last is the arms. Something extremely basic like this. Alright, the next mech is the Rocketeer. And equipment wise, this is pretty much what he has. Now you have an alternate cannon here for your primary weapon. There's my primary weapon. Then eventually I'll unlock this one. Secondary weapon, of course, is unchangeable, but it's Hellfire missiles. Why would you want to change it? Now for cosmetics, he's going to have some different options than the smaller mech does. And like the body styles, you've got a shark, of course the Nemesis, which I already have, kind of a Japanese dragon, a brass key lime, which is your secondary option from say the brass shark. A pink berry, Hepton pink berry. Reminds me kind of like cards for some reason. I think probably because of the hearts down here. Alright, then you have basic ones that are unpainted that you can swap up your tops for. You have the bunker, which is basically the dragon unpainted. And I say unpainted because it's showing that black here because of my paint job. But if I were to go to no paint job at all, this is what it would look like. So then the brass upper, the Domoff upper, which is basically what it is normally. Only I have the Nemesis paint job. The Hepton upper and the Malk upper, which really isn't a bad upper either. These ones look really beefy. And then basically you can switch your body style up to any way you want. Let's say if you want to go with a mech that's not offered standardly, you can actually select an entire set that's designed with that mech, or you can just swap it up any way you want. Again, they do cost meteor credits here. You can't actually do this with the in-game currency you earn, so you would have to actually buy credits to purchase these things, but the price of doing that is pretty reasonable with any other game that you would buy skins for. And of course the legs and the arms you'll be able to do the same thing with. Well, something I didn't cover is you can actually get different repair droids as well. So, depending on what kind of a repair droid you would like to have. This one was a special Halloween version. That one's actually pretty cool. And these are usable in combat, by the way. Although you don't want to be attacked while you're actually using them. Because as you're being repaired, all of your armor defenses are down. So you take more damage. Now the other thing you can do that I didn't think about covering before, with all your mechs you can actually get different color boosts. So depending on what you want your boost to look like. And then you have emote, and these are kind of taunts that you would do at the end of a game. That one's actually pretty cool. And then you've got things like this that'll come out as well. So this is all kinds of things that you can do at the end of a match. If you're on the winning team, you can actually perform this. The other team kind of gets it, you know, in their face type of a thing. Now, of course, you don't have to do any of these. But if you wanted to, you could. I have 59 of them because I really don't use them that often. Alright, now I'll throw my mech back to his normal patterns here real quick. Okay, the next is the assault mech. This guy's actually a really good mech to use. My son has a lot of luck with him. He goes up by the name of E-Hunshu. And then you basically get to pick the gun that you like according to your playstyle and what you unlock. Your secondary weapon's a tow rocket. Of course, consumables and everything are the same no matter what mech you pick. You just select the ones that you want for that mech. All the thrusters are the same. The repair droids are the same. You can pick the ones that you actually unlock and pay for. Then what mech emotes are different for each mech. So it says it's in the bag, looks more like a tea bag to me. That one's actually pretty cool. Then of course body styles again will be more of the medium class builds as well as some of the lower ones, just depending on what you actually want. So if you like something different than what your mech actually has, you just buy a different top. I try to keep all my mechs to where they actually look differently. Of course the body styles are all there as well. The legs and the arms, you'll notice it has more than the last mech. Then next is the Reaper. I really like this mech. I think he's really cool. Very stout, low to the ground. Here's his equipment. His secondary weapon is a KE Sabat. Rate of fire is only a 6. Accuracy is 95. It's basically similar to like a, let's say like a DMR. Maybe even a sniper rifle. He's got a lot of range here. Damage is just somewhat low. Now this one has a much higher damage rating for his primary weapon. Secondary weapons are a really good weapon because of the accuracy and the effective range. But the primary weapon you see is your main damage dealer. Now your accuracy is really high, rate of fire is good, effective range not so great, more in the medium range, medium to low. Now this one's got a rate of fire that's actually higher, so effective range drops. Your damage goes up, your accuracy drops only by 1. So not a bad alternative. For cosmetics, I really didn't do much with this on the color. I really couldn't find a color pattern that I liked on him better than what I already had, which was nothing. The only thing I really used on him was just the trim lines, and you can change them any color you want. I just thought because of his coloring in here with the gray and the whites, I just felt like the standard gray body armor looked the best on him. I tried different color patterns, I just didn't like them. But if you wanted to switch him up, you can make him look like a crab. An ace of, basically like an ace of cards, spades here. An elephant. The spree, which is what I bought. The nemesis, which I already have on one of my mechs, which I didn't want 2 of them looking the same. Now this is a standard upper. I actually use this in one of my other mechs. The Zos upper, which up here, if you can see, that's just a card. It's unpainted. The piston upper, which is my nemesis one, unpainted. The spree upper, which is what he comes with standard. The boot upper, which is basically the elephant one, unpainted. The moke upper, which is the crab, unpainted. Again, your options in here will be any of the same upper bodies that you can match with the middles and lowers. I didn't have his shoulders on, I don't know why. That or I just hadn't earned them yet. I don't know which. Shoulders or arms, rather. They look more like shoulder pads to me. But you can swap them up to make them look any way you want. to taking them off completely. Now see, that actually changes the design up quite a bit too. If you wanted to go with like a camouflage pattern. So you could remove the yellow altogether off of that and just have the blacks and the grays. A clear red. Can't match up the colors though with it. You can go with a black, but I think it's kind of overkill considering that the mech has a lot of white in it. They don't offer white, unfortunately. Could go with the camouflage patterning, but the red doesn't really match up too well. Now I could always do something like this, where I do a camouflage pattern, so I do get color in there rather than just a standard gray. But like I said, with the white in here and the gray, I almost just feel this mech just looks better unpainted. Now if they had a white, I'd probably go with that. But since they don't, the gray is pretty much the closest thing I can get to it. So that's why I just leave it alone. All I mess with him is on the trim lines. Apparently I took off the shoulders. Maybe I didn't like them. I mean, he does look pretty cool like that, but I think I'm going to leave him on today. Alright, the next mech is my Berserker, and this is probably my favorite mech. This is the one that I always use. So you've got a submachine gun for a primary weapon, which is a very good weapon. It's got a lower heat rate, so it doesn't overheat quite as fast. Your alternate rifle or weapon for your primary weapon actually does a little bit less damage. The accuracy is a little higher. The rate of fire is lower though. And effective range is a little farther, but not much. I was using this for a while because I really like the looks of it. And then what I ended up doing was switching back to this one, even though I don't care for the looks as much, because I actually think it works better. Now, when I get this one, hopefully it'll work even better. It looks like it will. The damage is definitely increased. Accuracy's a little lower, but not much. Rate of fire's about the same. Effective range is a little lower. The heat rate actually goes up with it, but I think the overall damage is going to be like a mitigating factor on that. It's just going to kind of make it about the same. I think no matter what your primary weapon is going to be, you're probably going to be just as deadly with it. It's just going to be a play style and how you fire the weapons to begin with. You know, whether or not you blast them or, you know, tap fire, whatever it is that you do. How well your aim works in game is really going to be the factors that, you know, are going to help you decide what you want. For internals with this mech, it's really the only mech that I've put internals on, mainly because it's the only one I've really been playing primarily. I've got a fuel converter, which converts 2% of my damage taken into fuel. Deflectors, which takes 20% less damage while boosting. Really, you're going to boost and dodge while you're actually engaged in combat or you're running away, so that's when you really do want to take less damage. Evasive defense, gain 15% faster run speed when armor is below 25% and 10% faster run speed when armor is below 50. So, things that I feel that are useful to me. Now for items, I'm using the HE Charge MK2, which basically is a high explosive kind of detonation grenade that you shoot out towards them, and you can use 2 uses per deployment. Eventually I'll be upgrading them to these once my mech levels, and then I'll get let's see, although the repair charge like this one is actually pretty nice too. It basically repairs a moderate amount of lost armor. So if once your armor is dropped, that's when you really start taking damage. Until then, your armor just continues to lower. You don't really take much damage. So it's actually a very useful tool that you can use in combat. I may end up using that later, but so far I really haven't. I've just been kind of sticking with the damage dealing. Moving up doesn't really do any more damage as much as it allows me to use it 3 times during deployment versus 2 that I currently get to, and 1 initially. This is a cockpit view. I haven't shown you this yet, but basically what it does is it allows you to change the colors up any way you want. So you can choose to make your friendly targets, as well as your scoring based system and their nameplates, any color you want on this list. I mean, you can make them pink if you want, green, I mean, it doesn't, whatever you want to do with it. White, I chose a standard blue. I would have probably picked a darker blue if they had it, but they didn't really offer it. So the default one is here, not much difference than the brighter blue that I actually chose. But let's see, if I chose pink, that's what it would look like. All my teammates would be pink, and some people may really like that. It definitely does stand out. Green, to be honest, I do like the green. I just haven't decided whether or not I'm gonna, you know, buy it or not. But the green actually does look pretty cool. It just may throw me off because in most of my games all of my teammates are blue. Now neutral, the same colors are option. I could buy green and make it neutral, which will change your XP too. Neutral items in this game are, you find in some game modes, the rest of them it's kind of, you know, you don't really see it at all. Now I did try red for my enemies, but I just thought it was a little bit too bright, and some of the objects you come in contact with the game, the environment, some of them have red lights, and so it was kind of throwing me off. I was looking that way for enemies that really weren't there, so I ended up going back to the default orange, which I thought worked pretty good. But, you know, making my enemies pink, it's definitely bright, it stands out. Wouldn't be opposed to it, although I'm not a real big fan of pink. It might actually work pretty good. Green, I would say no, because I do still think of green as being friendly. But it's just some things you can customize, as well as your crosshairs. So the type of crosshairs that you actually see in game while you're playing, you can customize them any way you want to something that you like. These are for basically primary and secondary weapons. One of the things that I've kind of toyed with is this setup. I think it looks kind of cool. Haven't decided whether or not I'm going to go with it yet or not. It's still something that's kind of in the air for me. I also like this one. It's just a standard kind of military looking crosshairs that you would see on a regular scope. This one's also pretty cool. Probably go better with this one. But right now I have the basic setup. Now that one with this would probably look pretty good. Alright. cosmetic. One thing I can show you on this mech that I couldn't on the other ones is unlocks. There is a elite middle or elite body part that you unlock as you level your mechs up. Now the elite really doesn't change the actual design of the body part because it's still going to stay pretty similar to being the same. It does take out like the holes that are in here on the side, so it changes a little bit but not a lot. But one thing I should mention about the elite body parts is when you actually get them, they don't change colors. So your mech would turn whatever color your elite body part happened to be. You can't actually change the colors on this. It'd be nice if you could, but you can't. Which unfortunately is a pretty bad thing in my opinion, because I think that when you unlock these colors you should be able to use them with any body part you buy, and because it's elite it does change up the body part slightly, so it does have a slightly different look, but I think they'd have been better off doing a little bit more to the body part design and still making the color patterns optional, like maybe give you this color, you know, this green as part of the package where you now have that color available to you, but you should still be able to change the color if you want to actually use this pattern. Now as far as I know, these body parts really don't do anything for your armor, so it's not like it increases your health. I have swapped them over and actually looked at my parts to see whether or not anything changed stat wise, and it did not. So this is the way I choose to run my mech because I really like this pattern, and actually I like these circles in here in this design, these cutouts. He is probably one of my favorite looking mechs as well as my favorite mech to play. My emotes. The teabag. The dirty dog. And the little roar. And he actually roars, that's pretty cool. Although you may not be able to hear it because my music in the background is pretty loud. I haven't really adjusted the defaults of the volume on this game, so. Okay, my next mech is the Raider. And all I've really done with him, because he already came, let's look at his weapons here real quick. You see my secondary or my alternate primary weapon here does quite a bit less damage. The accuracy is really low. Rate of fire is actually pretty low as well. Effective range, it's pretty low. And the heat rate is high, actually equivalent to this one. So when you look at this, accuracy is really crappy. The damage isn't all that great. Why would you switch to this? It's really personal preference. It definitely looks a lot better than this weapon. Can't argue with that. But this weapon is just, to me, looks much more effective. Because stat-wise, all this stuff pretty much matches up really similar. This one even firing less, but does less damage. You would think it would do more damage with a slower rate of fire, as well as the accuracy being so low. So. And being that the heat rate is exactly the same. You just have to use both weapons in games and find out which one actually suits you better. The secondary weapon on this one's pretty good though. Now for cosmetics, all I did was I chose a red pattern that somewhat matched the top piece that I already had, which was the Nemesis chassis. It's something that actually came with the package that I ordered. As I mentioned earlier, I had 3 of them. This was one of them. But I could change this to look like anything, and pretty much you could make all of your mechs resemble each other for the most part, at least for the body size categories. That one actually doesn't look too bad. That's actually one of my favorite ones. I think I just like the X. I don't know why. Now if you look at what I actually have, this is the actual body style part that actually comes with my mech. This is what it would look like if I didn't have the Nemesis. But the Nemesis obviously looks better. So this is what I use. Colors are still available for all the same mechs. This was just one that I actually liked with it. And I didn't want it to all be the same. I didn't want to use an all black chassis or body when the top piece here actually didn't have a lot of black in it. I do have the Ghost selected here, so while I'm in here I think I'm gonna change that, as well as this. Now his emotes are the bow, of course the teabag, the rooster, and then the running man. Okay, the next mech is the Bruiser. I actually like this mech. I think it's a pretty cool looking design. You'll notice that for his equipment, his primary cannon he gets here is really cool. It's actually one of the other, like the third weapon upgrade, I believe, for my Berserker. Yeah. Hawken, let's see. Yes, same weapon. So my third choice on weapons once I unlock it is the first weapon you actually get with this one. His secondary weapon for an unlock is my first weapon on my Berserker. So it's a really good setup. So if you want to try out a weapon, you can actually just look around for the mechs that have, let's say, your second and third primary choices for their first choices and try it out. See if you like the weapon or not. Of course, this will be my third primary weapon alternative when I can actually unlock it, which will be rank 5. And you get Hellfire missiles with this mech as well, which is similar to the Rocketeer. Only your armor's not as heavy, so you don't have as much health. But you are more mobile, so you're faster than the Rocketeer. With similar, well, exactly the same setup for a secondary weapon. So depending on what style of play you like, whether or not you like to move really quick, you know, whether you want to move slower but have a little bit more health, or whether you want to move really slow in comparison, you know, and have a lot of health. Depends on what kind of body style you'll actually pick for your mech. But because you can go in here and change them any way you want, it's always a positive thing. Now with him, he's probably going to have the same emotes as the other one because he's the same class. Looks very similar. The Rooster, and then of course the Running Man. And the default one that you automatically get is That Just Happened, which is what I use anyways. Color patterns, I actually went with this one. It just kind of reminds me of a tank, even though he's really not. Now if I wanted to get a painted chassis for this one, it would have actually been this one, which was an orange star. It actually looked really good. I thought about getting it, but then I pulled out at the last moment and didn't purchase it. Because honestly, I just kind of like the whole body painted as one. Sometimes that just works out, and for me on this mech it did. I guess I could go over the actual body styles, but it'll be really similar to the other one. the painted one compared to the one I have now. And then of course the other standard paint designs that would be on him. That's actually a pretty cool looking mech design. That is my least favorite. I know there's a lot of people using them, but now that mech that I just showed you a while ago, the one that looks like the big giant TV set to me, is actually this mech. He's a CRT recruit, which is the standard for him. Equipment wise, he's got an assault rifle. Secondary is a alternate one when you unlock it is the submachine gun, which is the one again I have on my Berserker as a standard. And then the Vulcan, kind of a chain gun like type thing, which would be the third one. Then you get a tow rocket, which is really good. Items you see, I haven't really done anything with him because I haven't played him much, very little. Now cosmetic wise, I changed him completely. There are no parts on him that remain of what he originally was. And I'll show you what he originally was. This is what he used to look like, which is pretty ugly. His emotes are exactly the same. The bow, the teabag, the rooster, and the running man. Now as you can see, if you're running around with a mech, you probably don't want to look like this guy. This looks like a big TV set running around with legs and arms. So you can go through here, like I said, and customize a mech any way you want. I ended up going with the same arms and upper body, only because I wanted the design feature to match. I could have went with a painted design, but I really didn't want to do that. The only painted one for him originally is this one, where you get the kind of computer monitor looking, loading a program. Like I said, I really don't like that design, so what I ended up doing was going with this X, and I just really like the looks of it. For the lower body, I didn't actually keep the same one. This is what his lower body and legs would have looked like if I decided to go with this entire mech. The original design of this mech is exactly like this, if I went with this body style. Now this mech isn't something that you can actually buy as a full created mech, it's just an alternative appearance that you can design your mech, whichever one you have that's a lower to middle rated armored mech, and you can make them look like this. But what I ended up doing with him was I ended up going with the RES lower because I like that design better. I felt that it fit the upper body better, and then I used the other upper body. So then what I did was I went with a paint job that really stood out, that I thought looked cool, and so this is what I chose. And I was pretty happy with my final customization of this mech. He looks nothing like what he originally looked like, but I do like him a lot. My next mech is the Brawler, and he is a big tank. And of course here there's weapon systems. Cosmetically, all I really did with him was I gave him a paint job. Now I didn't really know what I wanted to do with him other than the fact that I definitely wanted him to look differently than my other mechs. These are basically like their shields. When they go into a defensive stance that they can actually fire from, these shields drop in front of them, not behind them. And so it's kind of like, how intimidating do you want your mech to look? You know, and what kind of design do you want to go with them? Now his standard arms aren't my favorite, but they are different from my other mechs that are tanks. So that's why I left them alone, basically. Now chassis wise, again, you can make him look like the Shark, very similar to the other tank mechs that I've shown earlier. Now this was actually the paint job according to what style mech he is. It matches him, and it is the Hepton. I really didn't like the whole pink and purple scheme that much. I started to go with something completely different that's not offered in one of the mechs that I currently have, but instead what I ended up doing was I just kept his standard body, and then I gave him a tiger looking paint pattern, mainly because I thought it resembled somewhat construction equipment, and I thought it was kind of a cool look for him. Then I just matched his trim lines up to what I felt would have been appropriate for it. Now I went with a little bit lighter yellow, and I thought that worked pretty well for him. Although looking at my emotes here, I'm going to change that because I'm not too thrilled with the green with envy. Just go with a thumbs up. I don't know about Lord of Dash. He's not really a dasher. Maybe the little tea bag looking thing here. Now for his emotes, it's going to be similar for all the tanks. He's got the wave. He's got the tea bag, or double tea bag here. He's got the shotgun, the cock and fire. Then of course he's got the sumo. Okay, the technician. I did change him up a little bit. I went with a light camo pattern, almost like a desert feel. Here are his primary weapons. Now his alternate primary weapon actually does quite a bit of damage. It doesn't overheat as much. The rate of fire is actually pretty good. So it seems like a better option for me. His second one is a repair torch. This is your healer. He runs around, and not only can he do pretty good damage, but he's actually a healer, can heal your mechs. So you get a tank out there with some DPS standing behind him, this guy in the background healing everybody, and it makes for a really deadly combination in gameplay. Hard to beat. Now cosmetic wise, what I really did with him was I gave him the paint job that I liked. Found something that I felt was different from all of my other mechs, and it looked really well with him. I went with black for my trim lines. His body, I ended up keeping the same, which was the Zos. But his top I actually switched out. Now the reason being is that this is what he normally looks like. And next to the TV, this is probably my least favorite design. I really don't like the TV design, and I don't really care for this one that much either. Although I have to say I'm not a real big fan of the whole fuel tank being up here in front either. I think practically you would never put something that could explode potentially in the front of a mech. Now, like I said, I could have made him look like any of these. I do really like the piston upper, which is on my Berserker. It's probably one of my favorite mech designs. But like I said, I wanted to try to keep everything different. This is a mech that, as far as I know, you can't purchase the design, or at least I don't have it yet. So it's just an alternate body style that you can design for a mech. So this is what I went with. I purchased this, and I ended up going with that color pattern. But I could have made him look like any of my other mechs. Could have did any paint job that I wanted. It's really up to you. Kind of sky's the limit here for what you want to do. And your paint jobs really depend upon what you like. Like I said, you adjust the saturation to change the color tones of all of this, as well as the scale to change the actual camel pattern on how it fits on your mech. Now it would have been nice if they would have had like a, you know, kind of a white paint job with a, you know, red or orange cross on it for medic. That would have been pretty cool. I could have went with something like this, but I already am, which I really like. That's one of my favorite colors, patterns that they actually sell. But I didn't, because I already had it on one of my mechs. So I have seen someone run around with these pink and black checkers though. Show you how all the color patterns look on here. And keep in mind, all these colors are offered on all the mechs, so I'm just kind of going through them all right here, so that way you can see what they look like on the actual mech itself. This is fully saturated, so you get the full color of it. It's an actual pretty cool color too. I like this black with the yellow trim. But I do have it on another mech. So this is what I ended up going with. Kind of almost like a desert type of camo, but a little bit more orangey. Of course, I can cut the saturation down and make it gray if I wanted to, and just run him around like this. Or I can bring the saturation up and make him kind of a light tan. I think I'll keep him about right there. Alright, Grenader is my last mech in my lineup. Now he is a large tank He's actually pretty cool. Equipment wise, I have the secondary or the alternate cannon on there right now for his primary weapon. I don't know if that's the greatest decision I made, but effective range is very long. It's 80, so he can fire from a long ways away, which is why I did it. Rate of fire is pretty much the same as the secondary one. Accuracy is 100%, so it's probably one of the best weapons for accuracy I've seen so far. And damage is a little bit less, but not much. Heat rate is the same. So I felt that was a better choice for him. This is what the first one looks like. Secondary one is a grenade launcher. Now you'll notice here that the effective range is not really long, so if you're using a primary weapon, the actual effective range on this one and accuracy with that range isn't really necessary when you consider that most of the time you're going to be fighting a little bit closer up. Now cosmetic, let's get rid of the grumpy guy here. Let's throw on something like Robo No-No. Again, his emotes are going to be basically the same. He's got the wave, the double teabag, the shotgun fire, and then the sumo. I'll probably, when I start playing these guys, I'll probably get the sumo one just because I really like it. Now again, you can change any of the stuff up that you want on him with his arms, his legs, make him look any way you want. You know, the design pattern is just something you have to like, and you can do anything from making all of your mechs look pretty much the same or making them all look different like I have. You know, really just going to fit your play style and what you really like. Now this is the brass upper. It's a standard one. Of course, this is what the other ones will end up looking like if I swapped them out. The brass upper is actually a pretty decent looking upper. Although this is probably one of my favorites for just a plain one that I really like. I just really like that bar there. Now again, for the brass one, you have two choices. If you wanted to go with the custom paint jobs, which is the key lime here, and then you could pick the shark. And the shark was actually wanted to get it first because I like the design. I like the mouth, I like the eyes. So that's what I was going to end up doing, but I decided to wait until I actually play him more often. Once I start leveling him up and playing him, I'll probably end up buying that. But I didn't want to do it until I knew how much time I was going to put into each mech, and I don't know when I'm actually going to get to him because I have so many mechs. So I figured there was no hurry. So what I did was I just went with a paint job that looked pretty cool. I do like this orange pattern. I kept it the orange fade, and got a trim that stood out a little bit from that but somewhat matched, and I went with it.
Another thing that stopped me from buying that was that they come out with new patterns all the time, and they may come out with something I like better before I ever play them.
And that pretty much concludes all of my mechs. Now, I don't have all of them, and they do come out with new ones occasionally. The next one is a sharpshooter, which is actually pretty much like a sniper. Very effective mech, and you can buy these mechs with either meteor credits that you actually purchase with real cash or in-game currency that you earn, which is what I plan on doing. And then you've got the scout. He's a burst assassin is what they call it. Very mobile, burst damage, and I originally thought he was a sniper, but he's not. He's kind of a very burst damage, close range, almost like a melee, but he's not melee. Incinerator, which is a big heavy tank. You've got a launcher, and then your primary weapon here. And his ability is a heat dispersion. And that's one thing I didn't really talk about with these mechs. You can't change these abilities, but each one has their own special ability. Okay, the next mech that I don't have is the G2 Assault, and basically he's a special unlock. You can buy him early, but he's got a weapons cooling ability rated number 2. So I'm assuming it's a little bit better than the first assault mech. And to basically unlock him, you have to play the other mech and max him out, which is the assault mech, which is here. Or you can pay to early unlock him. Now you've got the infiltrator, which is pretty cool too. And then the last one will be the Vanguard. So out of all your mechs, one thing I didn't talk about here were the weapon abilities. I did cover that in one of my comparison videos between this and Hawken. But if you look up here, it'll tell you what your actual abilities are that each mech has that's unique to that mech. It's something you cannot change. You hit, well, as it says here, you press F in game and it activates it. And what this one actually does is it removes heat buildup for a short period of time and prevents heat from building up while it's active. The Rocketeer converts heavy defense mode and advanced lock-on targeting. While in the turret mode, for the defense mode, 45% damage taken from the front is reduced and 50% taken from behind is reduced. The Assault prevents and removes heat buildup for a short period of time. The Reaper greatly increases accuracy for a short period of time. The Berserker increases damage done by all weapons for a period of time, which is the class that I mainly play. The Raider, for a short duration, increases movement speed and gain the ability to fire while boosting. The Bruiser reduces the amount of damage received for a short period of time. The Recruit prevents and removes heat buildup for a short period of time. Even though this one, to start off with, is very ugly and looks like a TV, it's actually a very effective mech and very capable of killing any mech in game. The Brawler converts to a heavy defense mode that gives constant slow armor repair. So basically you're repairing your armor, as well as 10% damage taken from the front is reduced and 50% taken from behind. The Technician greatly increases your repair rate of your torch for a short duration, including the reconstruction to self, which is like your self-healing. Now the Grenadier converts to a heavy defense mode with increased weapon damage and explosive radius, and 15% damage reduction from the front and 30% in the back. So they're all a little different. You can customize them all somewhat as far as your appearance, and then your primary weapons are customizable from 3 different selections. Your secondary weapons are pretty much standard and locked on, and then again you can change all of your internals, like when you're looking at your items that you use during combat, to your internals such as greater defense, boost, and healing abilities. And then your consumables are all pretty much the same for all of your mechs. And that's Hawken in a nutshell for customization of your mechs. Thanks for watching. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoyed it. And I'll be posting a lot more videos of not only this game but many others. See you next time.